conference marked an enormous step in the establishment of the government that has persisted up to date. It's my pleasure today to have some of my senior participants in that Burma conference and the other local conferences who started in 1991 from all the regions. Let me introduce you our Minister of Information, Mr. Furay. At that one, in 1991, he was a young lieutenant from the Seattle regime when the government failed. And the first weeks of his fall, that failure of the government, he came to his region, Las Anod, and passed to Hargeisa, and he was one of the first personalities who have the courage to come and to discuss and participate in discussions with the SNM. His counterpart at that time, who was the opposite side, was one of the leaders and the commanders of our SNM forces, who was an old and experienced Colonel Muhammad Gahin, the Minister of the Interior. They were the first personalities who were sitting together on opposite sides at that time. The other person I'm introducing you is Abdullahi Muhammad Duale, our ex-foreign minister. He was an SNM veteran, and at that time, he is also from the eastern regions, and he was the intellectuals who at that time were leading that meetings in the far remote villages. Conference between Furay and Commander Kahin. It's my pleasure to introduce to you today our very experienced journalist, who was only maybe our few journalists who were in the combat zone, a veteran of SNM, and the president of the Veteran Association in 1991 at that time, who was one of the main tools and organizations who were going to mediate between the SNM and the other militias and the leaders, Mr. Yusuf Abdi Gabobe, who is still here today. It's my pleasure to have all my colleagues at that time. At that time, I was the Minister of Interior, and all of them were helping me, and they were facilitators to make all these decisions. They were the people who were all the time advising with the Gurti and harmonizing the cultural and the customary law and the government, institutions of the government. The system of Somaliland government has since evolved from clans-based system to one of the multi-party democracy in a new constitution which was approved by referendum on May 31, 2001 by 97.1% of our population. Somaliland has had 5 presidents since 1991. Each one of them elected on a peaceful basis. The last 3 were elected in a transparent, peaceful, one person, one vote, democratic elections. All the power has been transferred by in a peaceful condition. In addition to a peaceful process of the presidential elections, successful elections have also been held for local governments. December 2002, November 2012, and May 2021. And the lower house of the parliament, September 2005 and May 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, peace and functioning state institutions has opened up to the space for economic development and growth. As a nation of entrepreneurs, the private sector quickly flourished. Today, the private sector constitutes almost 90% of our GDP. It is the intention of the government to nurture and to facilitate the growth of our private sector, which is the main engine of our economic growth. I would like to highlight the following as the major lessons we learned from our journey to statehood. Peace is the foundation upon which state building and economic development are anchored. Homegrown peace and national reconciliation at the grassroots level is more sustainable than internationally driven imposed peace. SNM policy of non-recrimination against the non-SNM communities enabled meaningful dialogue between the adversaries, in which communities have supported the Barre regime, were able to play a genuine part in negotiating the terms of peace and the future of a government. That an act of kindness, even to your enemies, is better than revenge. In a gesture of that goodwill and human decency, SNM not only allowed thousands of refugees and the regime's military forces to leave their country peacefully, but provided with provisions. Nearly 1,000 soldiers from the Siad Barre regime who were from Somalia has been allowed to go freely to their country with logistical support in the hands of General Arre. And that was negotiated by the SNM elders and leaders in Borgo. That the nation is bigger than the individual or group of power to an elected civilian government. SNM was only the National Liberation Front in Africa that voluntarily handed over power to the civilian administration peacefully and willingly. Thus, gaining the confidence of those that did not support it during the liberation of the struggle have also supported them for building the government institutions in Somaliland. A resilient and determined people can overcome an enormous challenge. After 31 years of independence, Somaliland, with limited international support and enormous needs and challenges, is thriving and capable of managing its own affairs. The private sector is the main engine of economic growth, and the role of the government is to nurture the private sector through provision of conducive environment, targeted and the right amount of international aid is far better than an overwhelming and unaccountable aid which only breeds corruption and a source of conflict. Thank you very much.